Hello, hello! It's Christmas! Woo! Christmas is my absolute favorite holiday, and what better way to celebrate than turning some classic desserts into magical girls? The festive treats we'll be transforming today are gingerbread cookies, fruitcake, and a Yule log. Let's start with gingerbread. For gingerbread, I started with doing a very simple outfit with brown and the usual embellishments found on a gingerbread man cookie. Not feeling the first sketch, I decided to bring in some secondary inspiration to give us a bit more of a direction. The buttons on a gingerbread man made me think of a Pierrot, so I looked at a lot of different old illustrations and costumes of Pierrots. Adding the hat made this design finally start to feel Christmassy. I decided to switch from pants to a skirt because the skirt allowed for a more fun silhouette, as well as more of a magical girl look. I also went with giving her big, fluffy twin tails for the same reason. Moving into the final illustration, I struggled with her pose. A lot. I knew I wanted her to be juggling some ornaments for both Christmas and clown reasons, but finding a good angle was tough. But, with the power of references, I was able to get a pose with the right amount of energy that also showed off her outfit. I find that accidentally hiding design elements is probably the hardest part about posing characters for me. I want them to look exciting and fun, but that usually leads to me covering all the cool parts of the design. And I usually just end up with them standing kind of straight and boring. But just like with drawing, I'll keep practicing and I know I'll get better. Doing the line art for this one was so fun. I loved using my dear friend the ellipse tool to add in all the little balls. When it came time to color, I was definitely a bit nervous about the amount of browns I was going to be using. If you know anything about magical girls, you know that they're usually crazy rainbow colors or bright pastels or just walls of pink. In the end, I think the combination of colors I used helped her to look super Christmassy and scream gingerbread. I think my favorite part of this design is all the scattered pops of white. They really help all the colors pop and break up the design really nicely. And voila! Gingerbread is done! She came out so cute! I love her goofy little hat and all the little balls on it. She looks so silly and fun. Time for our next festive magical girl. Time for the most infamous of holiday desserts, the fruitcake. I've never tried fruitcake, so I had to look up what the heck was even in it. It's apparently full of dried fruits, and the reason it's famously not well liked is because at one point, sending out mail order fruitcakes was a very popular gift. But when they would arrive, they'd be all dried out and nasty. For our fruitcake, I want to focus on the cute, festive colors that can be found in a slice and incorporate that into a wintry themed outfit. I started out with my favorite puffy dress silhouette and added some fur trimming to give it that cold weather look. I put a huge bow on the front to give her some present vibes as well as break up the dress a bit. I started with a shorter hairstyle, but then quickly realized she just looked like Akane from Million Live, so I knew I had to change that up. With the rest of the sketches, I played around with a lot of different pieces of her outfit and ended up getting some really good ideas for the final version. This time, posing was a lot easier since I had already warmed up with gingerbread, so I didn't have to struggle as much. I'm really happy I went with the design with the fur hat because not only is it super wintry looking, but the rectangle shape is just like a fruitcake. Both the best and hardest part of this design is the pattern on the skirt. When colored, it makes the design pop and really look like a fruitcake. But at the same time, it's a lot of weird little shapes and was pretty tedious to draw. But I definitely think my struggles were worth it, because I absolutely love how it looks in the end. For her colors, I continued to stick with a similar palette to gingerbread, but brought in a few darker shades and some other reds to help her pop. I kept the present a traditional red and green to help it stand out from the rest of her, especially since she was holding it so close to her body. And after a little highlighting and shading, fruitcake is done! I'm so happy with how she came out. Even though fruitcake is normally unwanted during the holidays, I feel like everyone would be sending her invites to their Christmas parties. Let's move on to our last Christmas dessert magical girl. Our last magical girl of the day is going to be based on a Yule log, or bûche de Noël as it's also called. This dessert originated in France in the 1800s, so I wanted to make it a point to use 19th century French fashion as an inspiration. The dessert consists of a sponge cake rolled up into a cylinder and decorated with chocolate frosting to look like a log. I've actually cooked it a few times, and it's not too hard. Definitely worth a try if you want a fancy looking treat for a holiday party. With the sketches, since I had a pretty solid idea of what I was going for, they ended up looking fairly similar, with a few differences here and there. One thing I knew for sure I wanted was those side, head, Princess Leia looking buns to symbolize the swirl and the roll. I did try to experiment with having the roll in more places in the design, but I ultimately found it made it too busy and took away from the graceful, elegant features. For the final illustration, I added in a few chickadee friends to keep her company. Maybe it's the short hair, but she's really giving off Snow White energy. I decided to go with chickadees instead of a more traditional Christmas bird like the cardinal, because I like how the colors are less saturated and distracting from the design. And maybe also because chickadees are so cute and round and I just want to smush their little cheeks. With the design of her dress, I brought together a bunch of different details from a variety of fashion illustrations from the 1800s and just kind of mashed them together into what I felt looked like a dress and also Christmassy. I also added in some sprigs of holly and pine into her hair to mirror the details commonly found on a Yule log. And just like that, our bûche de Noël is complete. Oh, she looks so good! I can just picture her dancing in a fancy ballroom with snowy windows. Here's all 3 of our Christmas dessert magical girls. I'm so happy with how they all came out. I love that even though I used a lot of uncommon magical girl colors, they still feel energetic and cute. It's so hard to pick a favorite, but I think I'd have to go with Miss Log here. I was honestly most nervous about her since she's just a cake that looks like a tree, but I think I really captured the kind, ladylike personality I was going for. Which one's your fave? Let me know down in the comments. And if you had a merry time, subscribe and jingle the bell for more silly art videos. Christmas puns aside, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for joining me this year. I personally went through a lot of challenges and some pretty big changes, but no matter how nervous or lonely I felt, I always knew I had a safe place here. I'm looking forward to more silly art adventures and streaming with you in the new year, so I hope you'll stick around. Thank you so much for watching and happy holidays! Bye bye!